Hello there, dear listener. We hope you're enjoying this lovely discussion. If you're not already aware, this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio, a Pan-African Nationalist and Garveyite network committed to showcasing the rich and varied thoughts of African people. We have an exciting lineup of shows that we think you'll enjoy, including
the Bitter Medicine Podcast.
I think black people require too much buy-in. Like, we constantly have to sell black people on things that are beneficial to black people.
The Pro-Black Perspective Podcast.
I'm fearful that our people are not really studying how to get ahead, and we're kind of, continually staying behind.
The Harsh Reality Podcast.
To me, it don't matter. I think people are so dumbed down, it wouldn't matter what you reveal to them. They still are in the matrix. They're in the simulation. They're going to keep doing what they did. They lemmings. So to me, it don't matter, man.
The Learning Curve Podcast.
Sexual access has never given you economic empowerment. The only person who has ever been economically empowered by a sexual relationship is the wasp and his woman.
The Cathedra Cheek Show.
When we start rising up to fight for our own, I guarantee you they'll stop doing what they're doing. I guarantee you they would have let their brother go. They was waiting to see what black folks was going to do.
Brother Bakari Podcast.
Black people love to claim folks that hate them, right? They're a slave master, and they are ashamed of who they really are.
The Forecast Radio.
Like, if you pray to the same deity as like your enemy, and that God blesses your enemy more than you may want to reconsider who you praying to,
And Tanzan, African Mind.
Africans generally are welcoming of everyone. Sometimes, to my consternation, I think that they should be less, welcoming.
If you love our podcast network, we would be grateful if you could rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out our website at www.kwazradio.com for more information. Thank you for tuning in. And now, back to the program.
All right. Peace, fam. Let me see if I can turn on these comments. I'll tell the people Happy New Year. I know it's a new year for y'all. I know some of y'all it's early in the morning. That's okay. I did want to log on a little later, but it's not early in the morning for me. I'm in Africa, Tanzania. It's 5 p.m. It's 9 a.m. in the United States. So that's it. Now, what I want to talk about today is actually pretty interesting. So, one time I saw this video of like some ancient Egyptian, talking, and it brought me to another video. Okay, this other video. I looked through the profile of this channel, and I saw they were talking about different ninja stuff. Now, if you guys are really really want to know what video I'm talking about, you can go over to my Discord. But in the meantime, in the between time, what I'm telling you is that they had this book about the Book of Ninjas, and they had this quote. And after hearing it, because I tried to play it for my son, I wanted to play first the Egypt video, but I also wanted to play the video about ninjas because as a youth I thought ninja were cool, I guess, but also. It's just good to have a more international view. At some point, I decided to listen to this ninja video with my son, and it was a lot of good information, but the best information about it was that it was very similar to what I write in my book. So what I write in Uangalifu is you got to have 10 qualities. This is what I tell my family. I tell them, look, you got to work on your strength, your physique, your agility, your dexterity, your intelligence, your wisdom, your discipline, your charm, your fortune, and your repute. Okay? And of course, if you guys have my books, you know I talk about this very often, right? Basically, these are the qualities of a human being. And the better you have those qualities, the better your life is. You know, when we talk about Uangalifu and making good choices, we're talking about improving your life in those 10 qualities. Okay, and this is how you compare people. You compare people based off of their qualities, right? And, you know, two of the important qualities are fortune and repute. Very important qualities, fortune and repute. Obviously, discipline. You know, some people are more disciplined than others, right? And some people have no discipline, and they suffer. But, you know, fortune and repute, and if I were to summarize fortune and repute, you know, fortune is, you know, your ability or your quality, right? Well, I'll say your ability to, let's say control labor, right? And then, you know, just for parallelism, I will say control labor, and your repute is your ability to control trust. Okay, and so you're going to see this sort of theme of what is a good person that plays out throughout my literature, but also through the description of a qualified ninja. Okay, so without further ado, let's read this, starting from reasons as to why a shinobi no mano should be employed, right? And of course, employed means to be used, right? So he says he must have 5 basic elements. Okay? 5 basic elements: loyalty, courage, strategy, achievement, including worthy deeds, and fidelity. And on top of these, a healthy body. So you have the physique and strength and all that stuff in the healthy body, right? In the strategy, you have your wisdom. You know, discipline, you have your courage, so on and so forth, right? And this is how they summarize it. Now they're going to say they named 10 things, but regardless, you see how important it is to be a good person, a well-rounded person, right? Loyal, courageous, strategic, achieved, has notches on your belt. Practice fidelity, and of course, have a healthy body. You know, that's very important. So he says he must be gentle at normal times and have a keen sense of righteousness, but little need of desires. Again, you have that self-discipline, right? And this is what I tell the boys, right? I tell the boys, you know, you have to have that self-discipline. You know, there's a time for play, there's a time for work, right? Boys left to their own devices will want to, you know, watch stupid YouTube, play video games, and you as a parent have to instill in them, look, video games and YouTube, they're nice, but you can't do that endlessly. You know, today we were going over some math problems. You know, the older boys, you know, higher grade, so it was more on the older boys level. And yeah, the math wasn't there for either of the boys. And of course, they're on winter vacation, so there's that. But you know, I want these boys to be competent. So he says he needs to be fond of learning the principles of things and never forget his indebtedness to others. And this is something that I really wanted to show other people. You know, these are the qualities of a good individual. You know, the principles of things. What are the principles of things? And I stress this inside of my own literature where I talk about, you know, you have to differentiate between reality and imagination. You know, and the reality is this, that all around you is matter and energy, right? This is physics, right? If you want to know the principles of things, learn physics, study physics, okay? And then, of course, when he says never forget the indebtedness to others, you know, if you owe somebody money, pay it. This is something that, you know, unfortunately is not a universal. And of course, this kind of tells you about a person. You know, if a person is really heavily in debt, don't trust them. Remember, we talk about repute. if a person, that was one of my issues when I came to Tanzania, is that, sometimes I try to believe in people. I try to say to myself, hey, look, sometimes people are not successful because they don't have capital, right? Sometimes people are not successful because they don't have capital. That's not the case. You give somebody who's not successful capital, and you just lost your capital. 9 times out of 10. A lot can be seen from a person's spending habits. And this is why, like I said, I write it inside of my book, Uangalifu. Make sure you guys check it out. Not too many purchases this, last year, but hopefully there's more purchases this year, right? But all the same, what I'm saying is that you don't see it. And one of the other people who talks about this, who do you loan money to if you're going to loan money, right? Who do you loan money to? And Adam Smith, the author of Wealth of Nations, he also elaborates on it. He says, hey, look, if somebody is, if they spend a lot of money on themselves, if they have no discipline with money, don't lend them money. Earlier, in fact, it could have been 2 months ago, my brother hit me up and he said, hey, man, I need to borrow some money, man. I need this much money. I said, all right, man, when are you going to pay me back? He says, next week. I'll pay you back next week. Now, allegedly, there's some, drama regarding that. Like he says, at the job, because he's a good job, right? He says, at the job, they didn't do so on and so forth, right? But I'm out of the money. And it was a chunk. It was a chunk, And the reason why I have that chunk is because I manage my money. I have discipline with my money. I like video games. My brother likes video games. My brother has, maybe 8,000 video games or something. You know what I mean? And that's it. That's the big difference. I like anime. He likes anime. He has the box set. I have Netflix. There's a difference. So, of course, you say, well, that's your brother, so you should help him, you should support him. Absolutely. He hasn't proved you wrong before. Absolutely. But, you got to go back to Garvey's words. Garvey told us about this too. He says, look, don't loan out more money than you can afford. Luckily, I could have afforded that, but I kind of do miss my money, So that's another thing. All the same, let's see if there's any viewers. All right. So he says he must be fluent in speech, deep in thought, quick in communicating with people at normal times, and difficult to deceive, especially by using logic to avoid falling for smooth talking traps. These are really difficult qualities, but it is, the thing that you're going to pick up on as you navigate life is that a lot of people are deceptive. Okay, a lot of people will try to deceive you. And what's more, like I said, there's a difficulty when it comes to learning a new language. I'm in a country right now. I'm in Tanzania, right? This is my disadvantage. I don't speak the local language. It has many words, many vocabulary rules. I'm working through this book, and every new chapter I can't understand a new thing. I can't understand the new concepts. So there are some times it's kind of like if you're reading a math book, where you start off with one subject and then the next subject is just completely foreign to the subject before. No, in fact, it's not like using the math book, because the math book, at least the subject, you could build up on it. When it comes to Swahili, it's like another language. But anyway, so because of that, I'm not fluent in speech, and the people I'm speaking to are not going to be fluent in speech either. Okay. As far as deep in thought, one of the things we have to realize, and this is really critical, most people don't read books. quick in communicating with people at normal times. That's good too. Quick in communicating with people. Difficult to deceive. Again, when you have that language disadvantage, people can easier deceive you because one, they're using simple language. They're using language that they might not understand. Okay? And they're doing that smooth talking. I had somebody write me and they're like, "Hey man, I need $150, and I'm like, and they're like, "Oh, come on, you blah 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 blah. I'll pay the $150 back, next month." And of course, I'm saying to myself, "Well, look, there's no sense in me giving you $150 if I'm just going to get $150 back. There's no profit there, right?" But I let it slide, and who knows how that's going to be. But of course, when they were telling me this, it was a lot of smooth talking. A lot of smooth talking. Now, it's a little bit complicated as to why I would do that. But it is what it is. We'll see, right? And I know you're saying, "But after your brother did that, after you this, yeah." But it's good and bad. Like I said, Garvey said, if you can't afford to, don't. And the reality is that eventually when you keep doing stuff and you're not going to be able to afford it anymore. So I'm at the point where not only I'm pretty agitated, but I also can't afford it, which is all right. It's okay. So he says he should know heaven's will and have a grasp of Confucianism and Buddhism, and be always aware that life and death have their determined appointment. And this is interesting too, because there's some people who believe in this kind of determinism, right? And there's a good reason to believe in determinism. There's this logical thought that ultimately, you are composed of matter and energy, right? On a fundamental level, not really on a fundamental level, you are matter and energy. But on a fundamental level beyond that, you are protons, electrons, neutrons, and so forth. And those move in a deterministic manner. Now, I'm of the opinion that here's what it is. I'm of the opinion that they move in a statistical manner. But the reality is this, that even if it moves in a statistical manner, if you were to isolate something on a tiny scale and you were to watch its motions, it would be deterministic, right? Now, whether or not you can compute it is another question. It's like the three-body problem. When three bodies are moving, they move in a certain pattern, right? Now, do you know what the pattern is a priori? No. You'll have to watch and find out how the pattern moves. But three bodies do move in a predetermined manner, right? And then what about 4 bodies, 5 bodies, 20 bodies? And then on the scale of the universe, you might say, or even the scale of you as a human being, in a global world, you might say on the scale of trillions of bodies, right? And they would still necessarily move in a determined way, and that determined way might just mean that your life and death have their determined appointments. Okay? Now, whether you believe that or not, and again, like I said, I don't necessarily subscribe to that idea, but it has its merits, and you really can't argue against it per se. But of course, regardless, I would say obviously you can take your death in your own hand, right? You can take your death in your own hand. So and of course someone will say, well, even if you were to take, if you were to like jump in front of a train or something, right? That might have been predetermined. Again, interesting belief. Either way, the ninjas are saying, or the Japanese are saying of the ninjas that they would go by this idea that when it's your time to go, it's your time to go, you know. Now, and I know someone's like, what about the person next to you, right? They're playing, but it is what it is. So he said you should know heaven's will and the grasp of Confucianism and Buddhism, which is interesting. Again, I'm not really familiar with Confucianism or Buddhism, but it kind of, again, I look at religions as children's stories. Okay, I think that they are evolved from children's stories. So once upon a time, you might have believed that you might try to discipline your children. Like, for instance, I'll tell you guys this. It's a little embarrassing, but there's this garbage collection in Tanzania is not efficient. Okay, it is weird, and I told you guys about this one guy coming to my door and talking all this. Where's your sister? And he's a handsome dude. Where's your sister? I need to talk to her. And I'm just like, who is this guy? Handsome dude coming to my house talking about where's my sister? Didn't know he was a garbage collector. So he stopped collecting garbage for a minute, right? Now, why is that important? And again, the garbage collectors are not like let's say I'm from New York, right? In New York, Tuesday and I think Friday, I don't remember, but maybe Tuesday and Friday, you would leave out garbage in front of your house for garbage collection on Wednesday and Saturday morning, okay? So on Tuesday evening, you would put out your garbage bags and your garbage cans or your garbage bags, yeah. And then by Wednesday morning, you could bring back in your cans or what have you. Basically, the garbage is taken care of. In Tanzania, it's not like that, okay? And I could say not yet. Maybe that's an industry I could look into, but it's not like that. In Tanzania, I don't know. Somebody just randomly knocks on your door, taka 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 taka, and then you can hand them their garbage, and you have to pay them, like $4 or something, right? And they will take your garbage for you. And this is important because again, in New York City it's free, in Tanzania it's not. But one of the things that happened is that the garbage might pile up. If the garbage piles up, what happens is, and you don't know when the garbage collector's coming, and you throw the bag outside, and the birds rip open the bag, and the critters rip open the bags. What happens eventually, and again, this is embarrassing. What happens eventually is you might have mice, okay? And then of course you could poison the mice, and that's good. But you will have mice because you have a feast, a buffet right outside of your house. The mice can, travel over your gate or through your gate or, whatever, your fence or what have you. They're eating, then they might, find their way into your home. They might find your way into, your collection of food or what have you. Basically, you can have a problem just based off of the fact that waste disposal is not really a priority for the local government, and that's fine, right? No disrespect, but here's the issue with that, right? You tell your kids clean up, right? Because they might eat some food, drop some rice on the floor, and again, like I said, the main problem is not how clean your house is inside, but really how clean your house is outside. But regardless, you tell your kids clean up, because you find a mouse and you say, okay, it's time you guys take it serious, right? So you say clean up after before you work on playing games or whatever, right? And they decide to, and that's fine. Here's where it gets complicated. You have to reason with them. They don't understand microorganisms, although you try to explain it to them. They don't explain bacteria, although you do a good demonstration of bacteria, whatever. But you tell them, look, you lie to them. You incite their imagination. You say, look, if you have 2 mice in the house, and they have babies, and then there's 3 mice, then there's 4 mice, then there's 5 mice, and they keep eating your food because you're providing them with the food, so they stay around. Eventually, they have 10 mice, 20 mice, 200 mice, right? Who are the mice going to eat next, right? I mean, what are they going to eat after they're eating your food and it's not enough to sustain them? And one of the boys would say, well, they're going to eat
Me. And you're like, yeah, exactly. They're going to, no, he says they're going to eat maybe people. I say, no, they're going to eat little boys. The mice are going to eat little boys. And that's on and so forth. Now, here's the thing. There's no real risk of 200 mice being bred in your home and then eating your children. It's a very low risk, I'll say. Very, very low risk. But you tell them this to excite into them cleanliness. You say the cleaner you are, the more so on and so forth. And of course, I also got them to clean the yard and, put the garbage in a bin and seal it and all that kind of stuff. But the point is that you can lie to kids if they don't understand science. If they can't think on a scientific level, you can lie to kids to have a more effective, let's say, standard of behavior, right? You say, like you tell the kid, hey, look, if you lie, people don't trust you, yada, 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 so on and so forth, right? This is where I would say religion comes into play. Okay? You tell children stories. And then here's the thing. Those beliefs, when you get older, if you don't recognize that they were tall tales, they become a belief. Okay? And the reality is this. Maybe once upon a time, 1 in 5 adults could have picked up on, oh, this is a belief. This is just a tall tale. But as time progresses, more and more people will believe whatever nonsense you were saying. Don't leave food on the floor, otherwise mice are going to eat us. Right? And eventually that story evolves into a real belief. And of course, the class of people, or the caste of people who know better, are the people who know better. The quote-unquote pastor, the priester, the priest, the monk, what have you. They know it's just a children's story, but it's a useful children's story. And there are adults who are going to grow older and believe in the children's story, but, there's a use to it. Right? Buddhism teaches you to search for... and again, I'm not really familiar with Buddhism or Confucianism. But what I can say is, they say search for nirvana, search for reincarnation, an explanation of what life is after death. Maybe you're going to have a repeated life if you don't try to exercise some sort of morality and some sort of self-discipline. Because again, why not? I mean, not why not. What I say is this. Like you told to the cleanliness thing. The kids could just drop food on the floor, and you try to rationalize with them, don't drop food on the floor. Why not? What are the consequences? Now, besides from me beating your ass, right? If that's what the direction I decide to go in, right? What consequence is there for leaving food on the floor? If you spill soda and you just leave it there, what consequences is there? Even worse so if one of the parents, right, clean it up. You drop rice on the floor and you leave it there until night. What's the problem? So you make up a story of some sort of consequence, right? In order that there's some sort of discipline. You see? And some religions, I wanna really, highlight this point. Some religions talk about, well, somebody is invisible, some invisible force, or even say Buddhism or Confucianism. I'm not sure which one of them has the karma, maybe Buddhism. But it's like karma, it's like one of those things. Hey, look, the universe is watching you. Or the universe is going to be in balance. The more, negative you do, the more negative comes to you. The more positive you do, the more positive comes to you. It's not real, it's imaginary. But it shows a consequence. It gives you the impression of a consequence for your actions even without observers. Okay? And you see this inside of the Igbo spiritual system as well. But you also see this side of the Abrahamic faiths, right? Where they have this supernatural deity who's watching you, and gives you a consequence for your missteps, right? Particularly, let's say Christianity, right? You have this idea of a heaven, right? You have this idea of a heaven where if you are, if you follow the religion faithfully, right? If you follow the commandments or what have you faithfully, you can find yourself having a positive consequence. And if you follow these, if you don't follow these commandments or this demeanor faithfully, right, or religiously, if you or just if you don't follow it correctly or what have you, right, you can have negative consequences, such as a hell, right? And you see this in ancient Egypt as well. And I just want to highlight the reason why I say children's stories is because there is a piece of literature from ancient Greeks that that suggests that an ancient Egyptian priest was speaking to Solon. Okay, Solon was one of the 7 sages of ancient Greece, and this ancient Egyptian priest was telling Solon, "Hey, look, you guys, it seems like your spiritual system, your religion, is just a bunch of children's stories. And if you really look into what the ancient Greeks were doing with Zeus and Hera and so on and so forth, you see the parallelism with the ancient Egyptian pantheon. So the ancient Egyptians see the Greek pantheon and they notice that it's their pantheon, but with Greek names and Greek faces. And they say, "Oh, you took on our children's stories, and now you're so on and so forth." And of course, that piece of literature is Timaeus, for those who don't know, and I do quote it quite a bit inside of Uangalifu. So, in case you're wondering, but long story short, the ancient Egyptians, and of course, in Uangalifu, I talk about the Ma'at, and how in Ma'at's 42. Let's see, admonishments, not admonishments, but 42, I can't remember the word, but inside of that, right, let's say affirmations or something, or declination, something, right, or negative confessions, there you go, right, in those 42, there's a lot of talk about do not doubt the primordial gods, right? And one of the reasons why somebody would say that is because people were doubting it. Okay? People were doubting it. And here's another more interesting thing. In that document, they would say, "Hey, don't dam up certain waterfalls unless you're appointed to by the state," kind of thing, right? Or don't farm, don't farm in certain land unless you're appointed to by the state, or don't hunt in certain animals unless you're appointed by the state. What's interesting is that it's saying, "Hey, look, the state is an economic polity." Okay? The state is an economic polity. Because the state is an economic polity, we need you to behave a certain way for us to be maximally profitable. Right? And therefore, we're going to give some divine reason. Like, we're going to give some reason for some supernatural consequence so that you can stay out of our economic way. Right? Because, you got to remember, humans really have no authorities on this planet. No central authorities, just like animals don't. Animals do not, like a dog doesn't have a central authority. What happens is that humans make themselves the central authority of dogs. But, even like when you talk about, we jokingly say, the lion is the king of the jungle. The animals don't have kings. And neither do humans. Humans have kings, but you will notice that a lot of times, especially in the older days, humans would adopt kings based off of some supernatural reasoning. They'll say, "Oh, this person's right to rule is supernatural." Okay? It's not a natural right to rule, because the natural right to rule is might makes right. Okay? And a lot of the kings are mighty, but the reality is that you don't want to endlessly contest your might. You know what I mean? So sure, you as an individual can command an army of 200,000 people, and you might have this army, this military over 3 million people. Those, if you don't have a supernatural reasoning to be the ruler of those 3 million people, 500,000 could be agitated at some point and test you, and then you put them down, and now you have 2.5 million people, and then another 300,000 get up, and you have 2.2 million, and then so on and so forth until you have 1.4 million, or even let's say your military of 300,000 or 200,000, whatever, shrinks down to 150,000. Shrinks down to 50,000. Maybe they have a split and they believe that somebody else is the rightful ruler, or somebody else should be the ruler, or somebody else is more magnetic than you, and so on and so forth. And eventually you get dwindled down, and maybe a foreign state takes you over, or maybe another entity takes you over. The point is, what protects you from contesting so many people is if so many people believe that you are supernaturally ordained by the children's stories that you instill them with. It's a very lovely predicament that the human species finds itself in, but at the same time, it's not worth. Like at the same time, it's just imagination. There are no supernaturals. There's no supernatural anything. That's pretty much it. Everything is natural. Like we say about the deterministic world, everything is natural. So he must aim at rising above his own self-interest at all times and bear the words of ancient sages in mind. Now again, if you're not reading, you're not going to get the words of ancient sages, right? And self-interest, again, a lot of times when you study the lives of people, a lot of people are really only into their self-interest. Okay? And again, that's why, like I said, this is a good descriptor of how to judge character. And I'll just reiterate, my book goes over some of this stuff too. So make sure you check that out as well. So he says he should be earnest, although I know I'm talking to the void because there's absolutely zero. There's spikes of one concurrent viewer occasionally, but this is why you don't do content, right? So he says, he should be earnest to know the morals of the samurai class, and furthermore, should learn much about the ways of the Japanese and Chinese ancient warriors who had loyalty and bravery, dedicated themselves to their lord, and destroyed the enemy with tactics, and all in the service of their lord. Also, he should have a great interest in military affairs or the arts of war. His temperament should be that of a hero. So you have this... you have this idea that you should study the older people, and I think a lot of us don't, like, we kind of underestimate how big a role this was once upon a time. So what's interesting is this idea of the Trojan horse. We all heard about the Trojan horse, right? I can't remember where I read it from, and of course it could have just been hearsay, but it could be that the Trojan horse incident never happened, and it's just a retelling. Or it's either a children's story or it's a retelling of an older battle. Okay, an older battle where people snuck in something with a false, with a gift, right? And then this just retold and situated in Troy, in order that people in Troy or people of the Greek heritage could, celebrate themselves, as well as learn a certain military tactic, learn a certain moral, which is, don't accept gifts from your enemy. Now, and of course, if you guys know about what happened with the African Union, although I shouldn't say, enemy, but you get what I'm saying. Just don't accept gifts. Like, if you don't know the intentions of the person behind you, don't accept gifts. But anyway, so he says, furthermore, should learn much about the ways of Japanese and Chinese ancient warriors. So again, you study the ancients, not just of your own people, but of people that maybe your competitors, so on and so forth. but also just people who were brave and loyal, and dedicated themselves to their Lord. And of course, the Lord is an individual, and of course, use tactics. Now, this is why I also like the Abrahamic religions a little bit, right? Because again, even though they're children's stories, one of the things you're going to pick up on, and I noticed this a long time ago. I was sitting on a bus and this guy was talking to me. He was I didn't agree with him at the time. He was like, hey man, I sell drugs in order that I could earn money, in order that I can put that economy towards the development of African people, right? And I was like, whoa, dude, you can't sell drugs to your own people. And he's like, look, someone's going to sell those drugs. Someone's going to make that money, but it's better for people with good intentions, or people who can be constructive to, instead of just destructive, people who can be constructive to use those resources toward constructing something, right? Now, of course, he's not just investing in his family, but even if he was investing in his family, the dude had some sort of reasoning. And of course, at the time, I disagreed. I'm not saying I agree with it now, but I bring up this dude because he told me something else that really informed me, okay? So the thing he told me was that he's a Muslim. And at the time, I didn't really know too many Muslims, and I don't think he was a black Muslim. I think he was just a Muslim. And so he reads the Quran. And when he's describing the Quran to me, because I'm like, look, I'm not into religion, I'm not into that stuff, blah, blah, blah. He's like, no, you're not understanding, man. Muhammad set two armies against each other, two larger armies against each other. When the two large armies, when one of them defeated the other, he then defeated the remaining one. And this is what he writes in his book. So I think back to this Amos Wilson lecture. Of course, you guys know I'm not a big fan. But I think back to this Amos Wilson lecture where Amos Wilson is saying, hey, I'm reading this, the Old Testament of the Bible, which is kind of similar to the Torah, or what have you, right? And he's like, I'm reading the Old Testament, and there's this, the supernatural God, like, if you will, or the supernatural being tells the Jews, hey, man, when you fight these people, right? I think it's the people of Lot, maybe, I don't know. But when you fight these people, kill everybody. Kill the men, the women, and the children. Kill their animals. Burn their crops. Just kill everything. And the person, the king, I might have been King David or something, I don't know. But the entity, because again, I don't read this shit, okay? It's only important, what the lesson is, right? And of course, you don't need their lessons. You could just know stuff. But what I'm saying is this: it says, kill all of them, blah blah. And the person in the Bible or the Torah, the Old Testament, is saying, nah, I shouldn't burn their crops and kill their women, children, and dogs. Like, what the fuck kind of shit is that, right? And then they get punished by their God for this. Okay, like, whoa, I told you to burn their crops and do this over. You didn't. And there's a lesson there. I don't know what the consequence was from the other people. If I understand it correctly, there was a consequence from their God or something. But the reality is that there's a lesson, and it is total war. Total war is good, right? And I'm bringing this up because, again, you have the Quran, or one of the lessons of the Quran, telling you divide and conquer, right? Fake alliances, turn around, betray that alliance, that kind of stuff. And the other one's telling you, hey, go do some total war. And this is why when I look at this stuff, right? And of course, the Christians, they're telling you, hey, turn the other cheek, right? Or teach people to turn the other cheek. One of the things that inside of the, I think it's Matthew's, right? And I think I read it for you guys at one point. So, you can check it out if you want to. But in the book of Matthew, it's like the first book of the New Testament. And why I can't read the New Testament. But first book of the New Testament, the dude is like, hey, I do the Sermon on the Mount, right? Jesus goes on the mountain and he says, look, this is from our God. This is the word, right? And he tells them, he says, not just to turn the other cheek stuff, but he says, look, even the pagans, right? Even the pagans know. I think this is pagans, I'm not sure. But he says, even the pagans know to treat your enemy like your enemy. No, treat your neighbor like your friend. But they also think to treat your enemy like your enemy. And what I'm going to tell you is, no, don't treat your, he's like, what I'm going to tell you is treat your enemy, treat your friends as your neighbor as your friend, and treat your enemy as a friend. And of course, that's awful advice. What he's saying is this, that the people before Christianity, the people outside of Christianity, even they understand, treat your enemy like an enemy. But if you teach them, treat your enemy like your friend. Right? Now this is why Constantine says in Hoc Signa Vinces, right? If your enemy can convince you to treat your enemy like a friend, you're now doing what is called propaganda. Okay? What you're now doing is you're confusing other people. That's why when you embrace Christianity and you're not, of the Roman Empire, right? You're fucking up. Okay? Like, unless you understand that these religions, particularly the Abrahamic religions, right? But these religions are what we call worship, right? Not worship, worship. They are military strategies. Until you understand that, you're fucking up. Like, if you believe in this supernatural nonsense, you're fucking up. Because again, another useful, valuable thing inside of these, because again, they have utility, is they tell you how to maintain a marriage. Now, again, you have this, and I also put this inside of my book. And of course, I didn't quote this book for my book, but I spoke about something like this. I said, usually he should not be argumentative with people. And one of the things I write in my book, maybe I probably should show that, but I say husbands and wives should not argue. One of the things, because I'm a newly married man, one of the things that does grind my gear, right, is sometimes my wife would want to be argumentative. And I have to tell her, and it's not just with me too. Sometimes she'd be argumentative with random people, I don't like it. I don't think men and women should argue. I don't think they should. Because, men, you guys just think. So he says, he must be gentle and dignified, and above this, have a name as being righteous and good. And this is what I say about a good repute. And look, you see, within or outside his domain, he should be reputed to be completely honest. I want you guys to understand what I said and also what we see there. Right? Even the same exact word, repute. I wonder if I can find this book for a second and just, maybe possibly, I don't really want to show off, but you have this. You search repute. You see, it says 10 qualities, repute, well reputed, right? Ill reputed. Repute is the ability to secure trust. So again, you have this fortune is the ability to secure securities, okay? And it's one of the most important qualities for a potential husband, right? But you have repute, and it is the ability to secure trust. Before you marry anyone, before a background check, and inquire the relationship with your parents. This is the part about marriage, right? Let's see if there's another part. We have repute. We talk about it again. Or maybe not right now. Voice for repute. Okay, so again, I kind of talk about the qualities. Okay, so it looks like it might be whatever, but this is what it is, Now, I want to go back to the last book. Where is it? So, but I want you to see that, when we talk about how to, one of the qualities of a human being, we're talking about you got to be able to secure trust. And how do you do that? By being honest. Have a reputation of being honest. Now, this is important too. He says his wife, children, and relatives must be of good descent. Thus, there should be little chance that he should be a reverse shinobi. Now, you can imagine what you think a reverse shinobi is. Again, I haven't read this book. I just heard the video on YouTube, and we don't really. Now, of course, shinobi, it appears to be a spy. Okay, it appears to be the class of individuals that you would send to foreign nations to sabotage them, or to report back. And what they're saying is that if you were to employ these kind of people, these kind of agent provocateurs, or these kind of people that can go into other nations and retrieve things, right? They should be married in your nation. And they should have good marriages. Okay? Now, I want you guys to understand, even though I write about marriage in my own book, right? Let me see if it's. Oh, did I not switch the screen? I can't tell if I switched it or not. Okay, so I think there's something wrong. Okay, so I don't think I switched the screen, but it's fine. Either way, what I want you to understand is that people can lie about their families. Okay, that's another thing. So it is very incumbent on you to do your real research. Now, yeah, and that's most important. Look, the relationship with the family is most important if they have a relationship with their family, right? Like, if their relationship with their family is very robust, then it is important to see, what are these members doing? Because one of the things you're going to pick up on is that people with a relationship with their family and friends and so on and so forth, right? These people have a lot of influence over them. Okay? These people will have a lot of influence over them. Now, me personally, I'm not really, I love my son, obviously, right? But I'm not really a family guy, So I might not hear from my brother, until my birthday or until his birthday. And I'm okay with that, Whereas there's other people who might, not go a day without hearing from their brother. So then you have to ask, well, what is the character of their brother? You understand? And in terms of, as a man, how good is their brother? That's when you really have to inquire. Now, as we go further, he says he must be well-traveled and have a good knowledge of what the manners and customs are like in various provinces. So one thing I do want to show you guys is this. I really didn't have a chance to show you my book, so let me just show you it real quick and then come back to this. This is what I said about I said fortune over here. Fortune is the ability to secure securities, and it's one of the most important qualities for a potential husband. And of course, repute, or the ability to secure trust, is very important. Potential, before you get married, inquire the relationship with their parents, whether their parents were ever married, and whether their parents remain married. Learn what their neighbors think of them, their characters, so on and so forth. So you really have to. This is your ability to secure trust, but also their ability, and of course, this is from honesty, right? This is from honesty. But let's just go back to the. I just want to show you guys that because, I think it's very important to. I think it's very important to. Oh, did I not switch back? Oh, I did. I think it's very important to just see the parallels, right? Because what they're communicating in this era is just good character, and honestly, I think good character is a pretty universal system. So you can learn about good character from multiple people, but obviously how they execute it might be a little bit different. Even so, he must be well traveled and have a good knowledge of what the manners and customs are like in various provinces. Which again, if you have a spy that's not, you have your trouble. So he must study hard and learn deeply the art of shinobu no jutsu. Be competent in strategy, be talented at writing, skilled in all areas of ninjutsu to the highest degree, and aspire to perform merits in battle. So you want people who are intelligent and wise, right? Using my thing, dexterous, and so on and so forth. Talented at writing. He's going to say, here you got the arts, he says, as well as military affairs, he must be accomplished in various arts, be poetic, musical, know how to dance, have the ability to impersonate others, and be proficient in all other activities, and can then use them to make up for any situation without blundering. So you have this idea of a very skilled individual, right? An individual who's well-rounded too, I'll admit I don't really talk about, I don't think I talk about dance. No, I think I do, yeah. So at some point in my book, I do talk about the ancient Egyptians' education system. So the ancient Egyptians have this idea of the 7 liberal arts, right? And the 7 liberal arts, if I remember correctly, and of course I could always just scroll over and look at it, but if I remember correctly, is math, reading, writing, so on and so forth, right? And I don't know if it's reading and writing is separate, but the point being that they also had music. Okay? And then if you look at the ancient Egyptian curriculum, right, which is something you really should do, right? They talk about dance, the role of dance, and so on and so forth. So while I can't necessarily, let me see if I can just search really quickly if I mention the word DANCE. I talk about, let me see something. I talk about most entertainers are financed by advertisers to push, guidance should include dance. So I do tell people that dance is important, but I don't necessarily say if you're a good guy if you can dance. But it is what it is. It's not like, this other guy says it. Chancellor Williams, he talks about how if you're trying to study to be a man, you should learn dances. But anyway, let's keep reading. I hope you guys like it. I see 1 like, which is good. Appreciate it. So it says those who have the above 10 characteristics are very rare and should be called jonin, or highly skilled ninjas. Now you see he says 10 characteristics, right? He thought it was 5. But he says, it is difficult to find a jonin as mentioned above unless the Lord has profound wisdom and completely understands people, just as if he can see into their mind. If he is not a sage, he cannot attain the status of jonin. So again, this really speaks to our situation. Okay? I'm reminded of this video game. It's called Crusader Kings, I think, right? Where you're the king of a region. And as king, you don't rule so absolutely. I mean, you could rule absolutely because it's a video game. But one of the things you do is you appoint people, individuals with different qualities, okay, into positions on your council. And that's a very critical thing to do, because if, like, for instance, your war, the member of your council, your counselor of war or something like that, right, is not proficient in military, right, your whole army suffers. If your counselor of religion is not proficient in religious studies, your whole community, your whole nation suffers. Your whole empire suffers, because this is one of those empire building games, right? And one of the critical things you do inside of that game is you select the members of your council, and you can factor in, hey, is this member a member of my nation? Because you could also put in foreigners, appoint foreigners to your council, and of course, you could make your counselors do certain damage or make certain infrastructure or build something. They can have some sort of activity within your empire or without your empire. And then how efficient they are at that activity depends on how skilled they are. The point being, and this is what I really want to take away from this, is that you as a lord have to employ people. Okay, You as a lord have to employ people. And when you employ people, okay, one, you have to employ the best people. But how do you discern what are the best people? And this is what that whole chapter is about. And also, like I said, in my section where I'm talking about, getting married and so on and so forth, I'm saying, hey, look, these are the 10 qualities you got to look into. Because if you're not looking into these 10 qualities, if you're looking into something else, you are going to be in trouble. Okay? A lot of guys, you see it all the time. In fact, I saw the other day, this guy was, he's like, he's trying to talk to this woman. And he's like, hey, man, do you like Attack on Titan? She's like, ew, I don't like Attack on Titan. I don't care if anybody's watching Attack on Titan. He's like, okay, how about Dragon Ball Z? She's like, ew, yuck, you watch Dragon Ball Z? You disgusting. You blah, blah, blah. And so people in the comment section, these are Europeans, obviously, right? People in the comment section are like, hey, man, just go find you a nice nerd who likes it. But me, I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you talking to her about anime for? Like, and I'm not saying, if somebody finds whatever you like disgusting, you probably shouldn't, whatever. But again, how important is that? Like for instance, with my wife, I don't watch half the shit she watches. Matter of fact, 10% of the shit she watches, and that's okay. And of course, sure, I might be like, hey, I don't like that, but it is what it is. And of course, my wife might say, hey, man, I don't like cartoons. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, you have to know what to look for in a person, and that's something that a lot of people are not getting lessons in. So make sure, I would say this, if you know any young people starting off life, make sure you get them a copy of Uangalifu. Start the year right with them, okay? So he says, Sun Tzu says, only those who are wise will be able to employ spies usefully. So again, and the reason why I brought that up, sorry, I want to apologize. So the reason why I brought up, the Jonin and the Lord and all that kind of stuff is that, we look at situations like Traore in Burkina Faso. Brilliant brother, good brother, but I have nothing bad to say. The reason why I bring it up, though, is to say that he likely surrounds himself with good people, possibly bad people, but with good people, and he employs them well. And you as an individual, you who might be a Jonin in your own way, or how I put it in my book, Oncobia, right? You might be an Oncobia in your own way, and in so being, you are in the best position to be used by a lord or a president or what have you, right? To the ability of the state, to the benefit of the state. Whereas at the same time, even if you are a good lord or a good president or a Traore, if you have at your disposal some bad people, or if Traore doesn't recognize he has at his disposal some bad people, he can get in trouble. And in fact, that's what happened to, I don't want to say predecessor, but what happened to Sankara? Sankara, good brother, good intelligent brother who employed some people to good, to his benefit. But he also had some negative people around him. And those negative people ended up killing him and ruling Burkina Faso with an iron fist. Okay? As to say that you have to be that's why Sun Tzu says, only those who are wise will be able to employ spies usefully. I put inside of, now this is another book, but I put inside the Book of Power, this passage. Now you can look it up yourself, okay? If you look up Sankara's, unpublished speech or something like that, right? You'll find somebody points out that there's this unpublished speech by Sankara. He was supposed to speak it 2 days after he was killed. And what he says in that speech is, man, we got to watch out for some of these people. I don't know what to do. We should lecture them. Some people say I should attack them. I don't want to kill anybody, blah, blah, blah. They gutted him like a fish. Okay? They gutted him like a fish because you got to understand as an individual, as a man, let's put it that way, when to be violent. Okay? You have to understand as a man when to be violent. And that's the thing that the Christians try to teach you. Don't be violent. Okay? Don't be violent. Now, credit to the Jews and the Muslims, they're not taught that. Okay, they're not taught that. But the Christians, because of the way how it's set up, where you go to foreign nations and you Christianize them, and you say, hey man, violence is bad. And you're going to see in a lot of the media, they're going to teach you violence is bad. But let's not talk about it. Let's see. Let's keep going. So he says, as mentioned repeatedly in the chapters of this writing, the stupid lord, if using shinobi, cannot attain victory in every battle, while the bright lord, when using shinobi, will win in all confrontations. The chances of winning are as sure and his victory is sure-footed as if he will never miss a hit 100 times out of 100 tries. And so, look, these are, the Jonin again are efficient spies. So what they're saying is this. If you're an idiot, and even if you have efficient spies, you cannot attain victory. However, if you're not an idiot, and you have efficient spies, you can always win. Okay? And you have efficient, wise spies, you can always win. And you got to think about that in terms of the United Snakes, right? The United Snakes might not be that good, or might not have a bunch of geniuses, sure. However, right, you have this example of the FBI. If the FBI director has a brain on his shoulders, not literally on his shoulders, but you get what I'm saying, a brain in his skull, and he has efficient agents, they could take down the Black Panther Party. They could take down the UNIA. They could take down the, you name it. CIA, you name it, right? They can do it. Because having that spy on your side, having that efficient spy, if you're employing it against people who are not really even, don't even know anything, you got it. I tell you guys the story, and I think it's bearing repeating. There was this documentary about the women in the Black Panther Party, right? The sisters, if you will. And this lady was recounting her experience in one of these meetings. They were talking about, I don't know, maybe the rent's too damn high type shit, They're talking about labor issues or employment issues or some sort of economic issue that, they could have really agitated the people with. And somebody came in at this economics meeting. Remember, economics is fundamental. I want people to remember this. Economics is fundamental towards your liberation or towards your betterment on this planet. Because again, fortune is one of the qualities, and it's how you secure securities. Now, I did say secure labor before, but even so, secure securities. Now, here's the thing. You have this, they're at this meeting, okay? And somebody says, well, what about lesbians? What are we going to do about lesbians? Now, again, the meeting is about something economical. And somebody brings up, well, what about lesbians and how we got them, blah, 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 whatever. What happens afterward is the meeting is fractured. There's a debate. There's an argument. Well, my opinion is that lesbians ain't no good. Well, I kind of like gays, but I don't like lesbians. Well, I think they should have rights, and I think they should have... Whatever it is. The conversation detracts from the economic matter, and it divides into a debate on your opinion that is obviously going to be divided because you have this worship, you have these religions that already have a stance on this issue, and you're going to be repeating it because you don't recognize it's a children's story. Either way, you have this conversation, you have this debate. What happens at this meeting is that the whole group now fractures. Okay? Half of them go towards something else, half of them go to another. The meeting loses its momentum. The issue is dissolved. It's won. And the conclusion that these sisters made was that they think an agent did it. Now, I'm not going to say it was an agent. I don't know. right? Because how would I know? They said they think it was an agent did it because, the CIA has the documentation, be an agent provocateur. Either way, right? Try to distract meetings, try to bring up cultural issues in economic conversations, all that kind of stuff. Either way, they said in retrospect, one of the things they should have done was say, this is the conversation for that. This is not the time to have that conversation. And they could have stayed unified and maybe have gotten something done, but they didn't, and so on and so forth. But I say this to say that, this is a common tactic. Now, you could also say in this whole description of winnings are assured and victories, when you talk about, I didn't read the book, but people talk about it, this diaries of an economic hitman type stuff, right? Where 9 times out of 10, you go to another country and you tell them, hey, look, we can give you this loan, and all you got to do is so forth, and we could do this and we could do that, and they destroy your economy because they have the spies who are effective, and the guy who writes it says, look, I was good at my job, I was good at what I do. They send me out to whatever country. I knew how to take down the leadership because I studied them. 9 times out of 10. And of course, the stupid lawyer is not going to know. He's not using the spies. He's not using so forth. He's not going to get it. So that's why it's important. Because like I said, even if people are stupid, generally speaking, if you employ intelligent people, you are in a good position. And of course, this goes back towards when I was telling you guys about the businesses, right? There are going to be people who are going to be bad at business, who are going to fail at business, and you should not be business partners with them. It's going to happen. Okay? It's going to happen. And if you can't recognize that, you can't recognize that. However, there's also people who are good at business. And you should be able to recognize that as well. So he says those jonin I mentioned are difficult to find. However, it is not difficult to obtain satisfying results with Chu Ge no Ninja. Now, for those of you who have watched this cartoon called Naruto, you know that Chu and Ge might actually mean Chunin and Genin, right? I actually didn't know the first time I looked at this. I was like, Chu and Ge, but I think I figured it out over here. But yeah, Chunin and Genin. I can't remember which one was the shorter one, but like Jonin is the higher level. Okay, so it says right here, middle or low level shinobi. So the Chunin is a middle level shinobi, and the Genin are the low level shinobi. Now again, like I said, if you guys have watched the cartoon, the anime, Naruto, you'll know that it's about ninjas. And Naruto starts off as a Genin, I guess, and then he takes the Chunin exams, and that's where he has this epic fight with Gaara, and then eventually he becomes a Jonin, or he's being led by a Jonin. I don't know, but I didn't really watch it too much, but I think I did watch it when I was in high school, and so you know how the human brain is, it kind of functions like a quasi-infinite storage where you remember most things that you've been exposed to in your life. Well, I shouldn't say most things, but some things you've been exposed to in your life. And you can retrieve it at any point in time and blah, 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 blah. So that is one of those things. Because otherwise you just read this and say Chu Ge and not really know what Chu Ge is, but it could be Chu Ninja, Ge Ninja, I don't know. So he says, all right, so long as they are employed appropriately and in accordance with the time and purpose, every detail about how to use them will be mentioned in subsequent volumes of this writing. Also, I will quote from ancient Japanese and Chinese writings as proof that middle or low-level ninjas can be made the basis of your tactics, and that there are countless examples of this. So again, he says, look, even the spy, even the FBI agent who is of low level, who is just a trainee, can be employed appropriately. Okay? Doesn't just have to be this perfect, wise, writing, dancing sage. It could be just this guy who, can collect some information, and spread some misinformation, right? So the wise general can make the best of Chunin and Genin, that is middle and low level ninjas, just as the master hawker can make the first grade hawk of a second grade hawk. Why should they be abandoned? Besides, even an almighty ninja cannot carry out Hicho no Jutsu the art of flying birds by himself without letting or getting aid from ordinary shinobi of middle or low level. So again, you have these shinobi, or you have these spies, you have these ninjas who can, who can aid in the higher level stuff, and you have the pencil pushers in the CIA or FBI, and you have the field agents, the people who can collect information, who can gather some names, who could just show up at a random meeting and copy, take a subtle picture of the list of individuals at the meeting and so on and so forth. I read this feminist book at one point, and they were saying that the FBI was infiltrating, a lot of the feminist meetings as well as, Black Panther meetings, so on and so forth. And they would, but because they weren't really well read, well informed, the agents, right? They would see on the list of like they would report the list, the roster, if you will, of people at the meeting as, like Harriet Tubman, Eleanor Roosevelt, and so forth. And what the women were doing was they were just, naming historical figures, but the spies, the men who just weren't informed on the history of the women's movements, so they were thinking that the historical names were the names of the people who were participating. So again, you have, at the end of the day, they still, I don't want to say they dissolved the feminist movement, because some people might reason that the feminist movement was a part of the CIA, FBI effort, or the espionage, or the anti whatever. So, but even so, there you have it, there you have it. So he says, letting and aiding middle floor and so forth. So he says you should let them perform their duties properly so they will attain success. Therefore, when employing ninja, be sure that all the above matters should be considered very carefully. You should, of course, seek out jonin, but those ordinary ninjas of middle or low level should not be thrown away. Again, you have this institutions for espionage, right? As mentioned in the chapters within this writing, that is, this document, the Bansan Shukai, that's the name of the book, or something like that, right? Yeah, that's the name of the book. This is translation of the Bansan Shukai, Japan's premier ninja manual. There's nothing better than using Haishi, normal warriors, Rishi, separate warriors, and Tonshi, hermit warriors, when using Shinobi no Jutsu. The use of these people gives you countless benefits, uses that are endless. Further detail will be given by word of mouth. Then the book continues. Now, this is a pretty big book, as you guys can tell, 671 pages. Obviously, this is all I'm going to read from it, and this is from I listened to some YouTube video. But beyond that, I very much appreciate everybody who stopped by. Looks like I had a maximum of 2 viewers. Zero messages in the chat. Either way, I'm still very grateful. Appreciate you guys for spending some of your New Year's with me. I know that maybe that might be a reason some people haven't showed up, but that's it's fine by me. I appreciate you guys' time. What I would say, let me actually show the screen. What I would say is, I have this new book out. I think it is very, very good. Okay? I want you guys to go and check it out. I mean, I could show you my sales. They haven't been that great. I wish they were better. And hopefully they will be better in this new year. But regardless, I appreciate your time. And I hope you have a great year. Okay? So I'll finish that with Shem Hotep, Ankuja Seneb Neb, Amen, Ma'at, Dua.